Commander Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Helios, her research vessel's sensors probing the depths of the Carina Nebula. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now every fiber of her being screamed that something was different about this mission. The anomaly had appeared 3 days ago, a perfect sphere of energy floating in the void, its surface rippling like liquid mercury. The Helios Eye had classified it as unknown origin, possibly artificial, but Sarah knew better. This wasn't just artificial, it was a message. Commander, energy spike detected. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through her thoughts. The sphere it's changing. Sarah watched as the anomaly's surface began to crack, golden light spilling through the fissures like dawn breaking through storm clouds. Her crew held their breath as the sphere slowly unfolded, revealing what looked like a crystalline seed pod roughly the size of a shuttle. All stations maintain distance, but prepare for retrieval, Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Dr. Rivera, what are we looking at? The ship's xenoarchaeologist adjusted her glasses, her dark eyes fixed on the readings flooding her console. It's definitely not natural, Commander. The structure appears to be composed of materials similar to quantum crystals, but arranged in patterns I've never seen before. If I had to guess, I'd say it's some kind of preservation vessel. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through protocols and possibilities. Humanity had encountered alien artifacts before, but nothing quite like this. The pod's surface seemed to pulse with an inner light, almost as if it were alive. "Ma'am," Park called out again, his voice tight with tension. "We're picking up biological readings from inside the structure. Something's in there, and it's alive." The revelation sent a ripple of murmurs through the bridge crew. In 20 years of space exploration, no one had ever found living alien specimens. Preserved remains, ancient technology, yes, but nothing alive. Sarah made her decision. Prep the quarantine bay. Dr. Rivera, assemble your team. We're bringing it aboard. The retrieval operation was textbook perfect, the pod now floating in a containment field within the Helios' most secure lab. Sarah stood behind a safety barrier, watching as Rivera's team conducted their initial scans. "Commander," Rivera called out, her voice filled with wonder. "The pod, it's responding to our presence. The energy patterns are shifting, becoming more organized. I think it's waking up." Before Sarah could respond, the pod's surface began to ripple, the crystalline structure becoming transparent. Through the clearing material, they could see something that made their hearts stop, a chamber filled with a soft amber light, and within it, a single occupant. "My God," Rivera whispered, "it's a child." The alien infant floated in what appeared to be a suspension field, its features both familiar and utterly foreign. Its skin was a pale silver that seemed to shift with iridescent patterns, like oil on water. Where a human child would have had hair, this being had delicate crystalline filaments that caught the light like fiber optics. Sarah felt something stir in her chest, a protective instinct she thought she'd left behind years ago. Vital signs. "Stable, but in some kind of suspended animation," Rivera reported. "The pod appears to be a highly advanced stasis system. Based on the decay rate of the surrounding materials, I'd estimate it's been drifting for thousands of years." 1,000 questions raced through Sarah's mind. Who had sent this child across the stars? What had happened to its people? And why here, why now? The pod suddenly pulsed with a brilliant light, and a holographic display materialized in the air above it. Symbols and images flashed by too quickly to comprehend, but the message was clear. This was no accident. The child had been sent here deliberately, preserved across millennia, waiting to be found. "Commander," Rivera's voice was barely a whisper. "The pod's systems are initiating some kind of revival sequence. Whatever's about to happen, it was meant to happen now." Sarah watched as the stasis field began to dissolve, her hand unconsciously pressing against the barrier that separated her from the infant. The child's eyes opened, revealing irises that shimmered like galaxies in miniature. In that moment, Sarah Chen understood that everything was about to change. She had no way of knowing that she would soon become the protector of perhaps the last survivor of an ancient civilization, or that her discovery would put them both in the crosshairs of forces that would stop at nothing to possess such power. As the child took its first breath in thousands of years, Sarah made a silent vow. Whatever came next, whatever it took, she would keep this child safe. The stars themselves would have to die before she would let any harm come to this miraculous being. The Helios continued its silent drift through the nebula, its precious cargo now awake and about to change the course of human history forever. The first cry of the alien child pierced the sterile air of the quarantine bay, a sound that seemed to resonate with the very atoms around them. Sarah Chen felt it in her bones, a harmonic that made the ship's instruments flutter and the lights flicker. Power fluctuations across all decks. Lieutenant Park reported from the bridge, his voice crackling through the intercom. "Whatever that child is, Commander, it's affecting our systems." Sarah stepped closer to the containment field, her eyes locked on the infant who had begun to glow with a soft, silvery light. The crystalline filaments that crowned its head pulsed in rhythm with its cries, sending waves of energy rippling through the air. "Dr. Rivera," Sarah called out, never taking her eyes off the child. "Talk to me. What are we dealing with?" Rivera's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the cascade of data. The child appears to be generating some form of quantum field. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. The energy signature matches no known species or technology. The infant's cries grew stronger, and with them, the ship's systems became increasingly erratic. Warning lights began to flash as the Helios' artificial gravity wavered. "We need to stabilize it," Sarah decided, already removing her protective gear. "And I don't think we're going to do that from behind a barrier." "Commander, we haven't completed decontamination protocols," Rivera protested, but Sarah was already stepping through the airlock. The moment Sarah entered the containment area, something changed. The child's cries softened, its glow dimming to a gentle shimmer. As she approached the pod, the infant turned its galaxy-filled eyes toward her, and Sarah felt a presence brush against her mind, curious, frightened, but undeniably intelligent. "Hello, little one," Sarah whispered, reaching out slowly. "You've come a long way, haven't you?" The moment her hand made contact with the child's skin, images flooded her consciousness, a world of crystal spires and sane lights, a civilization that had mastered the quantum fabric of reality itself, and then darkness. War, extinction, the desperate plan to save their species' last hope, sending it across time and space in search of guardians worthy of its trust. Sarah gasped as the connection broke, tears streaming down her face. The child, she now knew it was female, reached out with tiny fingers to touch Sarah's cheek, wiping away a tear with innocent curiosity. "Nova," Sarah said softly, the name coming to her through the lingering echoes of their connection. "Your name is Nova." "Commander," Rivera's voice was tight with concern. "Your neural patterns are showing significant changes. We should." A sudden impact rocked the ship, sending equipment crashing to the floor. Nova's cry of fear triggered another wave of energy, this one strong enough to shatter nearby screens. Multiple ships dropping out of FTO, Park's voice cut through the chaos. "They're running dark. No transponders, no identification. They're powering weapons." Sarah's military training kicked in as she scooped Nova into her arms, the child instinctively curling against her chest. This isn't a coincidence. They were waiting for the stasis pod to open. "Park, emergency protocol Alpha 9. Rivera, grab everything you can about the pod's data. We're leaving." "But Commander, the quarantine." "They're not here for a scientific study," Sarah cut her off, already moving toward the lab's emergency exit. "They're here for her, and I'm not letting that happen." As if to emphasize her point, another blast rocked the Helios. Through their newfound connection, Sarah felt Nova's fear spike, and with it came another pulse of energy that sent nearby equipment floating weightlessly into the air. "That's it," Sarah soothed, running her hand over Nova's crystalline filaments. "You're safe with me. I've got you." The ship's emergency lights cast everything in a red glow as Sarah made her way through the corridors, Nova cradled against her chest. The child's powers were already growing stronger. Sarah could feel it, like static electricity building before a storm. "Park status," she barked into her comm as she reached the auxiliary bridge. "Phi ships, Commander." Corporate logos just became visible. Quantum Dynamics Corporation. "They're demanding we surrender the specimen immediately." Sarah's jaw clenched. QTC, the same corporation that had been pushing the boundaries of ethical research for years, always hunting for the next breakthrough in human evolution. Of course they'd want Nova. "Send out a distress call to any Earth Alliance vessels in range," Sarah ordered, settling into the command chair with Nova secure in her lap. "Then prep the quantum drive for emergency jump." "Ma'am, we haven't calculated a safe vector." "Nova will show us the way," Sarah replied with absolute certainty, feeling the child's consciousness meshed with her own once more. "Trust me." As enemy ships moved to surround them, Sarah felt Nova's power build to a crescendo. The child's galaxy eyes blazed with light, and through their connection, Sarah saw impossible geometries, paths through space-time that human mathematics had never dreamed of. "Hold on, everyone," Sarah commanded, her hands finding the manual controls as Nova's power flowed through her. "We're about to rewrite the laws of physics." The Helios vanished in a burst of crystalline light, leaving their pursuers behind as ship and crew plunged into the unknown, guided by the impossible power of a child born among the stars and the unwavering determination of the human who had sworn to protect her. Behind them, in the now empty quarantine lab, the stasis pod's surface rippled one final time before dissolving into diamond dust, its purpose fulfilled, its precious cargo now in the hands of a guardian worthy of its trust. 3 weeks after their desperate escape, the Helios drifted in the shadow of a rogue planet, its systems running dark to avoid detection. In Sarah's private quarters, Nova floated 6 inches above her bed, crystalline filaments swirling like a miniature galaxy around her head. "Remarkable," Dr. Rivera whispered, reviewing the latest scan results. "Her neural pathways are evolving at an exponential rate. It's as if her entire genetic structure is adapting to our universe's physical laws." Sarah watched as Nova giggled, sending ripples of quantum energy through the room that made small objects dance in zero gravity. At just 3 weeks old, or thousands of years, depending on how you counted, the child was already displaying abilities that defied explanation. "She's learning to control it," Sarah noted, catching a floating stylus before it could drift too far. "The power surges are becoming less frequent." Rivera nodded, but her expression remained concerned. "That's part of what worries me, Commander. If she's this powerful as an infant, what will she be capable of when she—" A sudden alarm cut through their conversation. Nova dropped back to the bed with a startled cry, her distress causing the ship's artificial gravity to fluctuate wildly. "Bridge to Commander Chen." Lieutenant Park's voice was urgent, long-range sensors detecting multiple quantum wakes. "They found us." Sarah scooped Nova into her arms, the child immediately calming at her touch. "How many ships?" 3 QDC destroyers and, "Commander, there's something else, something bigger. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database." Through their mental link, Sarah felt Nova's sudden spike of fear. Images flashed through their shared consciousness. A massive vessel of crystalline design, similar to Nova's stasis pod but twisted, corrupted. A hunter-killer ship designed specifically to track down and capture beings like her. They're not just after her technology, Sarah realized, her blood running cold. They know what she is, what she can become. The Helios shuddered as the first shots were fired, enemy ships emerging from quantum space like sharks scenting blood. Nova whimpered, her fear manifesting as waves of energy that made the bulkheads creak. "It's okay, little star," Sarah soothed, using the nickname that had become natural over their weeks together. "Remember what we practiced. Focus on my voice." Nova's galaxy eyes met Sarah's, and suddenly they were one consciousness again, sharing more than just thoughts. Sarah felt Nova's power flow through her, raw and pure, like touching the fabric of space-time itself. "Park," Sarah called out, making her way to the bridge with Nova secure in a carrier against her chest. "Plot an escape vector through the debris field." "Ma'am, that's suicide. The gravitational forces alone ruled." "Trust me." Sarah settled into the command chair, feeling Nova's consciousness expand to encompass the entire ship. "Everyone, prepare for something impossible." The enemy ships opened fire in earnest, their weapons specifically designed to disable rather than destroy. They wanted Nova alive. Through their link, Sarah felt the child's anger rising, not just fear now, but a fierce determination that matched her guardian's own. "Now, little star," Sarah whispered, "show them what you can really do." Nova's power erupted like a supernova. The Helios became encased in a crystalline field of pure quantum energy, similar to her stasis pod, but infinitely more complex. Enemy fire dissipated harmlessly against the barrier as reality itself seemed to bend around them. "My God," Rivera breathed, staring at her readings. "She's not just manipulating space, she's rewriting it, creating quantum tunnels that shouldn't be possible." The massive crystalline hunter-killer loomed before them, its ancient weapons charging for a killing blow. But Sarah felt only calm as Nova's power reached its peak. The child wasn't just their salvation, she was evolution itself, a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become. "Hang on," Sarah commanded as Nova's power transformed the Helios into something more than just a ship. Reality twisted, folded, and shattered around them. For a moment, they existed everywhere and nowhere, the basic laws of physics becoming mere suggestions. When they emerged, the enemy fleet was light years behind them, and the Helios had changed. Crystalline structures now grew along its hull like living armor, pulsing with the same energy that flowed through Nova's veins. "Status report," Sarah called out, gently stroking Nova's filaments as the child dozed in her carrier, exhausted but proud. We're in the Horsehead Nebula," Park reported, his voice filled with awe. "Commander, the ship, it's not just damage, it's evolved. Nova didn't just move us through space, she transformed our technology to match her own." Sarah looked down at the sleeping child, marveling at the impossible being she'd sworn to protect. Nova had done more than just save them. She'd taken the first step toward uplifting humanity itself. "Plot a course for the outer colonies," Sarah ordered, already formulating a plan. "We need to find allies who understand what's really at stake here. This isn't just about protecting one child anymore." As the transformed Helios glided through the nebula's cosmic clouds, its crystalline surfaces refracting starlight like a newborn galaxy, Sarah Chen realized that their journey was just beginning. Nova wasn't just a refugee to be protected, she was a bridge between species, a key to unlocking humanity's next great leap forward. The question was, would humanity be ready for what she had to teach them? The Helios emerged from quantum space above a world that officially didn't exist. Sanctuary, they called it, a rogue colony of scientists, explorers, and free thinkers who had rejected corporate control of human expansion. The planet's surface was obscured by a perpetual storm system, a natural camouflage enhanced by advanced technology. Recognition codes transmitted, Park announced, his fingers dancing across the crystalline interface that had replaced his standard console. "They're surprised by our ship's new configuration." Sarah felt Nova stir against her chest, the child's consciousness reaching out to touch the minds below. At 2 months old now, her powers had grown exponentially, but so had her control and understanding. "They're like you," Nova's thoughts echoed in Sarah's mind, her mental voice carrying the wonder of a child discovering something new. different but seeking truth. Through their shared vision, Sarah saw sanctuary as Nova perceived it, a brilliant web of quantum possibilities where human minds pushed against the boundaries of conventional science, the perfect hiding place for a being who defied those very boundaries. A voice crackled through their communication system. "Helpless, you're cleared for landing. Welcome to Sanctuary, though we're very interested in hearing how your ship came to be infused with crystalline technology we've only seen in ancient ruins." Sarah smiled, feeling Nova's anticipation. "Let's just say we have a very special passenger who's redefining what's possible." The descent through the storm layer was smooth, Nova's presence stabilizing the ship against the turbulence. As they broke through the cloud cover, a hidden valley was revealed, a sprawling research complex nestled between towering mountains, its architecture a blend of human pragmatism and artistic vision. Beautiful, Nova projected, her galaxy eyes wide with fascination. The landing pad they were directed to was inside a massive hangar carved into the mountainside. As the Helpless settled down, Sarah saw a welcoming committee approaching, led by a face she hadn't seen in 15 years. "Dr. Marcus Kane," Sarah breathed, recognizing her old mentor from the academy. "Of course you'd be here." The reunion would have to wait, however. As soon as they powered down the engines, alerts began blaring throughout the ship. Nova suddenly went rigid in her carrier, her crystalline filaments standing on end. "Commander," Rivera's voice was urgent. Nova's quantum signature just spiked. "She's reacting to something here, something powerful." Through their link, Sarah felt it too, a resonance like a tuning fork being struck. Nova's consciousness expanded outward, drawn to something buried deep beneath the mountain. "They're here," Nova's thoughts came fast and excited. "The seeds of memory, the last message of my people." Before Sarah could respond, Nova's power surged. The child's form began to glow with familiar crystalline light, and suddenly both she and Sarah were enveloped in a quantum field. "Nova, wait." Sarah started, but it was too late. Reality shifted around them, and they materialized in a vast chamber deep underground. The walls were covered in the same crystalline technology that now adorned the Helpless, but far more ancient. "Commander Chen." Marcus Kane's voice came from behind them, somehow unsurprised by their sudden appearance. "I see you found our greatest discovery, or perhaps it found you." Sarah turned, instinctively keeping Nova close as she faced her old mentor. Kane looked older than she remembered, his hair now white, but his eyes still held that same intensity that had inspired so many students. "You knew," Sarah said. "You knew about Nova's people." Kane nodded, approaching a central pedestal that hummed with quantum energy. "We found this facility 3 years ago. It's a library, Commander, a repository of knowledge left behind by a species that had mastered the quantum nature of reality itself. We've spent years trying to understand even the basics of their science." Nova squirmed in her carrier, reaching out toward the pedestal. As her small hand made contact with its surface, the entire chamber came alive. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing scenes from an ancient civilization's history. The Ascended, Nova's thoughts named them, her people. We were the guardians of evolution, shepherding younger species toward their true potential, until the entropy came. Through the holograms, Sarah watched as a dark force spread across the galaxy, not a species or an empire, but a fundamental corruption of spacetime itself. The Ascended had fought it, using their mastery of quantum mechanics to preserve pockets of ordered space. But the battle changed them, Kane explained, watching the images with scholarly fascination. To fight entropy itself, they had to become something more than physical beings. In the end, they chose to transcend our reality entirely. All except Nova, Sarah realized. They left her behind as a bridge, a way to pass on their knowledge when humanity was ready. Nova's consciousness brushed against Sarah's, sharing memories that had been encoded in her very DNA. Not just knowledge, the child corrected. Hope. The entropy still spreads, sleeping but not defeated. My people knew that only by guiding another species to ascension could the galaxy be truly protected. Kane stepped closer, his expression grave. That's why quantum dynamics is hunting her. Their deep space sensors detected the entropy's subtle influence decades ago. They've been preparing for its return, but their approach is fundamentally flawed. They want to fight it on its own terms, using corrupted quantum technology like that hunter-killer ship, which would only accelerate the entropy's spread, Sarah concluded, holding Nova tighter. They don't understand that the only way to fight it is to evolve beyond it, just as the Ascended did. Nova touched Sarah's cheek, sharing a vision of possibility. Humanity transformed, not through corporate technology, but through understanding and growth, guided by the wisdom of an ancient race. The chamber's crystals pulsed in harmony with Nova's power, responding to her presence. Through their connection, Sarah felt the weight of destiny settling around them. They hadn't just found sanctuary, they found purpose. The question is, Kane said softly, are we ready for what that evolution will require? Nova's answer came not in words, but in a wave of pure quantum potential that washed over them all. In that moment, Sarah understood that their real journey was just beginning. The race to save humanity would pit them not just against corporate greed, but against the very forces of cosmic entropy itself. And it would all begin here, in a hidden colony at the edge of space, with a child who bridged the gap between what was and what could be. The warning came 3 days after their arrival at Sanctuary. Sarah was in the quantum lab with Nova, watching as the child effortlessly manipulated crystalline structures in ways that left even the colony's brightest minds speechless, when the facility's deep space sensors detected the first anomalies. Multiple quantum ruptures forming at the edge of the system, Park's voice crackled through the comm. Commander, they're using the same crystalline signatures as the hunter-killer ship. Nova froze, her galaxy eyes widening as she sensed the approaching threat. The crystalline structures around her shattered, raining diamond dust onto the lab floor. Impossible, Sarah muttered. No one knew we were here except. The blast doors suddenly sealed, trapping them in the lab. Emergency lights bathed everything in blood red as Kane's voice echoed through the facility's speakers. I'm sorry, Commander Chen, her old mentor's voice carried genuine regret. But you don't understand what's really at stake here. Through their link, Sarah felt Nova's surge of betrayal and fear. The child's consciousness expanded, touching every mind in the facility, and suddenly Sarah saw the truth through her eyes. The entropy, Sarah breathed. It's already here. In you. Kane's laugh was hollow. In all of us, to some degree. Quantum dynamics didn't just discover its existence, they found a way to harness it, to control it. Evolution through controlled destruction, Commander. It's the only way humanity will survive what's coming. Nova's power flared, her crystalline filaments writhing like angry serpents. Through their connection, Sarah saw what Kane couldn't, the corruption eating away at his quantum signature, the same corruption that had forced Nova's people to transcend reality itself. Park, Sarah called out, already moving to shield Nova. Status of the Helios. Locked down, Commander. They've activated quantum dampeners throughout the facility. We're trapped. Sarah felt Nova's small hand grip her sleeve. Not trapped, the child's thoughts rang with determination. Never trapped. Space is more than they understand. Before Sarah could respond, Nova's power erupted in a way she'd never felt before. The lab's crystalline structures began to resonate, not shattering this time, but transforming, growing, becoming something new. Fascinating. Kane's voice held scientific detachment even now. She's not just manipulating quantum fields, she's rewriting local space-time itself. The perfect specimen. She's not a specimen, Sarah growled, feeling Nova's power flow through her as the child initiated their deepest connection yet. She's the future, the real future, not your corrupted version of it. Through the security feeds, Sarah watched as the hunter-killer ships descended through Sanctuary's storm layer, their crystalline hulls pulsing with sickly entropy-tainted energy. But Nova wasn't afraid anymore. If anything, Sarah felt only sadness from the child. Sadness for beings so lost they'd embraced the very force that would ultimately destroy them. My people tried to save them too, Nova's thoughts whispered in Sarah's mind. The ones who chose entropy, but you can't save those who don't want to be saved. The lab's transformed crystals now formed a perfect sphere around them, its surface rippling with pure quantum energy. Outside, Sarah could hear Kane ordering his security teams to breach the doors, to contain what he saw as humanity's best chance at surviving the coming darkness. "Commander," Rivera's voice cut through the chaos, transmitted through Nova's quantum field. "Whatever you're planning, do it fast. Those ships are powering up weapons that could tear this planet apart." Sarah looked down at Nova, seeing not just a child now, but a bridge between worlds, between possibilities. "What do you need me to do?" Nova's answer came in a flood of images and concepts, too complex for words. Sarah understood immediately. Just as Nova's stasis pod had preserved her across millennia, they would need to make a similar leap now, not through time, but through possibility itself. "To all Helios crew," Sarah broadcast, "prepare for immediate quantum translation. Nova's going to show us what her people's technology can really do." Kane's voice held a note of panic now. "Commander, you don't understand. The entropy cannot be stopped. We have to control it, use it, before it consumes everything." "No," Sarah replied, feeling Nova's power reach its peak. "We have to transcend it, just as the Ascended did, just as humanity can if we choose the right path." The sphere of quantum energy began to pulse, its frequency matching the pure crystalline technology of Nova's people, untainted by entropy's corruption. Through their link, Sarah felt the child reaching out to the Helios, transforming it further, preparing it for what was to come. "You can't run forever," Kane shouted as reality began to bend around them. "The entropy is fundamental. It's in every quantum of space." "We're not running," Sarah replied, holding Nova close as the quantum sphere reached critical resonance. "We're evolving." The last thing Sarah saw before possibility itself shattered around them was Kane's expression of horrified realization. Nova hadn't just been left as a messenger or a bridge. She was a key, the key to humanity's next great leap. And now, with the bond between human guardian and quantum child fully formed, that leap was about to begin. The quantum sphere vanished, taking with it a lab, the Helios, and everyone connected to Nova's pure crystalline network. They left behind only a perfect circle of transformed space, a message to those who would follow. Evolution was not about controlling entropy, but about becoming something entropy could not touch. The real war for humanity's future was about to begin. The Helios materialized in the heart of the Carina Nebula, exactly where their journey had begun. But the ship that emerged was barely recognizable, a perfect fusion of human engineering and ascended crystalline technology, its hull flowing like liquid starlight. Through her enhanced connection with Nova, Sarah felt every member of her crew adjusting to their transformation. They weren't just pilots and scientists anymore. They were the first seeds of humanity's quantum awakening. Multiple ships dropping out of quantum space, Park announced, his consciousness now partly merged with the Helios evolved sensors. The entire QDC fleet, and they've all been modified with entropy tech. Nova stood on the bridge, no longer needing a carrier. At 3 months old physically, her form had begun to shift, becoming something between solid matter and pure quantum energy. Her galaxy eyes took in the approaching fleet, seeing past their corrupted crystalline shells to the scared humans within. They don't understand. Nova's thoughts reach everyone on the bridge. The entropy weapons they've built, they're feeding the very force they fear. Sarah watched as the massive hunter-killer ship emerged last, its once beautiful crystalline design now twisted and dark. Kane's face appeared on their view screen, his features gaunt and haunted. "Last chance, Commander," he said. "Surrender the child. Help us control the entropy before it's too late." "It's already too late," Sarah replied, feeling Nova's power surge through the ship. For you, the entropy doesn't need to be controlled, Marcus. It needs to be transcended. The enemy fleet opened fire, entropy-tainted energy lancing toward the Helios. But Nova was ready. The attacks simply passed through them, finding no purchase in their partially transcended state. Impossible, Kane breathed. You've already begun to shift phase with reality. Nova didn't just show us how to use her people's technology, Sarah explained, watching reality ripple around them like waves on a quantum sea. She showed us how to evolve past the need for it. The Ascended didn't run from entropy, they became something it couldn't touch. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah felt Nova reaching out to the enemy ships, offering one last chance at redemption. Images flowed through the quantum field, the true history of the Ascended, their discovery that fighting entropy only made it stronger, and the ultimate realization that transcendence was the only path forward. Some of the enemy crew members responded, their quantum signatures beginning to harmonize with Nova's pure frequency. Escape pods launched from several ships as their crews chose evolution over entropy's false promises. But Kane and his inner circle were too far gone. The hunter-killer ship's corrupted crystals pulsed with sickly power as it charged its main weapon, an entropy cannon designed to accelerate the heat death of space itself. You've doomed humanity, Kane snarled. Without controlled entropy, we'll be defenseless when the void between realities finally breaks down. Nova stepped forward, her form now more light than matter. When she spoke, it was with both thought and voice, carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. The void is not your enemy, she said. It is the space between possibilities, the one of new realities. My people learned to swim in it. So can humanity. The hunter-killer fired, its entropy beam carving a path of accelerated decay through space. But where it struck the Helios, something extraordinary happened. The corrupted energy was not deflected or absorbed, it was transformed. Nova's power, amplified by her connection to Sarah and the crew, turned entropy itself into a catalyst for evolution. The beam became a cascade of quantum possibility, washing over the Helios and transforming everything it touched. Now you see, Sarah said to her old mentor as reality began to swim around them. This was never about running or hiding or fighting. It was about becoming something new. Through the quantum field, they all felt it, the moment when the barrier between conventional space and the higher dimensions began to part. The Helios' crystalline structure sang with resonant energy as Nova guided them toward transcendence. Kane's desperate final attack had given them exactly what they needed, enough energy to initiate the phase shift that would allow humanity to take its first steps into a larger reality. "Commander," Rivera called out, her voice filled with awe. The quantum readings were not just changing location, were changing state of being. Sarah felt it too, the gradual dissolution of traditional physical boundaries. Through her link with Nova, she understood what was happening. They were becoming like the Ascended, beings of pure quantum consciousness, able to exist in multiple states and dimensions simultaneously. The entropy cannot touch what it cannot define, Nova projected, her form now a brilliant constellation of quantum possibility. This is humanity's true destiny, not to fight the fundamental forces of reality, but to transcend them. Kane's corrupted fleet tried to follow as the Helios began its transformation, but their entropy-tainted systems couldn't handle the phase shift. They could only watch as Sarah, Nova, and their crew took humanity's first steps into a higher plane of existence. As the transformation reached its peak, Sarah sent one final message to her old mentor. "The door is open, Marcus. When you're ready to stop fighting entropy and start embracing evolution, we'll be waiting." The Helios disappeared in a cascade of crystalline light, leaving behind a transformed section of space that would serve as a beacon for others ready to take the leap. The war wasn't over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. In the end, humanity's salvation would come not through control or domination, but through the simple, profound bond between a human guardian and the child who showed them how to transcend their own limitations.